Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Lola Shafer. We're reviewing again Ready to Love. This is season 4, episode 8, and it's the X Factor. Now when you hear that, I always think of, the Lauryn Hill song. But here, before we start, don't forget to like this video. Like, make a comment, and subscribe. So, first scene. This week it's for the ladies, so it's meant to be the ladies' lounge, but it's hosted somewhere different. It's now at Miles Manor, It looks nice. So Nephew Tommy's place is where they're all meeting, and everyone goes there and like, ooh, it looks so lovely. And Sister Jackie finally gets a kiki with the girls. This is what we've been waiting for, because they opened up the whole season with her and Nephew Tommy, but she just had a little sprinkle here and there. But now we're getting to see what role she might play. Let's see. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. So anyway, the point this week is he goes on to say he wants the guy of your interest to meet the ex. And for reasons for the ex to feel out this person and give you a perspective you hadn't otherwise thought of. Interesting, and something to note, when the ladies were looking at Sister Jackie and the palatial surroundings, they're oohing and ahhing and like, oh, I want something like this. I think they do know this, but they lost sight of it in the moment of what Sister Jackie's been through to get to that point. They've been together over 20 years and didn't marry immediately, so she has a story. But the show, her story is not the premise of the show, so it doesn't come up. But it's always, I never want us to forget, there's always a story. When you see it look all nice and glittery and shiny, all the glitters is not gold. She's been through it, I'm sure she has, and she's on the other side, and she can say thank God. But I don't want us to lose sight of that. So the first meeting happens between V and her ex and Joe. Her ex, forgot his name, but anyway, they meet. And something to note is that when they meet, I don't know if this is, all these little things, I don't know if they're little undertones of design, but Joel doesn't have his Elvis look with his shirt buttoned all the way down to his waist. Brad wearing like a sweater, and he looking like he a Backstreet Boy, like all buttoned up. He just looks different. Anyway, so the energy starts. I think they do okay. The ex, who I think now his name is David, kind of speaks with him, just asking questions, I guess what are his intentions, blah, blah, blah. And then Joe, he asks him, are you the jealous type? And this all just fill it ends. And then, of course, Joe gets to ask his burning question, is V clingy? I mean, whether she is or she isn't is really irrelevant, because her ex is probably not going to say, yeah, she's clingy, but he gets to ask this question. I don't know if this is what he's like, he's looking for, this is his way out response. I don't know. But anyway, so they get to a point, there's something that happened, and that might have been the argument that occurred before the last gentleman's lounge, when he left her on the floor and picked up Kyra. They go on talking about communications. And then the story comes out that maybe they were meant to meet somewhere. Joel had, arranged for a time, but never got back to her to confirm anything. It was just like, I won't say she got ghosted, but she got ghosted, essentially. And as she's talking about it, his eyes are darting. Like, bruh, like, what's going on? Like, your eyes feeling dry? Like, it was, and I don't know what that means. Is that, like, he's feeling uncomfortable? Is there something going on? Like, everything is not out there, it's not all open, because his eyes, usually, Joel is lounging back and he's, being himself, hey, baby, all that. But today he's all, sitting forward, eyes darting, and seems somewhat smaller. And not in size, but when I noticed that means there's something going on inside. Inside, his spirit's feeling smaller. Something's going on. Something occurred behind the scenes. Something heard behind the camera. But, V playing it off, or maybe she doesn't know. Maybe he didn't share it with her. So the next couple, Miss Alexis brings in Ron to meet her ex, Joseph. So we didn't get to see the pastor, her ex-husband. She went past the pastor, from before the pastor, and decided to bring him. I don't know, maybe she thought he was a TV friend. I don't know. But anyway, she brings the ex, who is, Joseph, okay looking young man, neither here nor there. And so they get talking, discussing argument style. He's trying to tell Ron that she likes caring words of affirmation, and all from left. Uncle Ron asked him, like, bro, you religious? Because he could feel it seeping from him. It was, I don't know what his intent was behind that statement, but he goes on to even say, the question is like, Alexis knows that Ron, in his own words, he says he's run away from the church. Something happened, he feels some way about it. So He's definitely not a churchgoer. I don't know how he is spiritually, because that's a different sort of language, but he doesn't talk about it. His phrase is that, you know what, while she's praying on it, he's going to go get it and he's going to go do it. And that's a little condescending to someone who says, you know what, let me seek God's face before I do this. He's like poo-pooing on your face, like, nah, I'm just going to do it. I'm about it. Like that. Those are fighting words for someone who's presenting herself, such as Alexis is, a woman of prayer who likes to pray before she makes a move. And this is, like I said, it's not something that Alexis doesn't know. So why has she gone this far with this person like that? And then it brings another question for Ron. With Ron, it's like, he knows this about Alexis too. Because the truth is, if Alexis presents as a woman, you know, she was in a relationship with a pastor, she still believes in God, prays about everything. So in her own words, the man being the head of the household will pray over the family, but how is she going to now be with someone who doesn't believe in doing that? So how is she going to be led by someone who doesn't share her belief system? Why did she go so far with someone who doesn't share her belief system? We know, part of what we do know is that, you know, okay, so Ron, like what we discussed last week, Ron is probably her backup. But why do you pick up a backup that's so far away from who you are, or who you want to be, or where you want to go? And the question can be said for Ron. Ron knows that they have these differences. You know, he's like, I don't want to fly, you know, the fly by night kind of guy. He not, you know, kneeling down at night or in the morning and leading the family into prayer. It's not something he wants to do. It's not something he sees himself doing. And that's what they always say with females and males. You know, just the way we approach things. So he already knows who Alexis is, and that's not necessarily who he is. Why has he declared numerous times that Alexis is his number one when they share a fundamental difference? People break up over this or have really uncomfortable marriages over this one topic. So why walk into this knowing that you don't share the same idea but still do it? Whereas he had Chrysanthemum, who had the same kind of like but he let himself be talked out of her being the best option for him. So not to call him shallow, but let's say we say he's shallow and we say that Chrysanthemum's shallow. Well, they have something in common. What's wrong with that? Sometimes I think there's another lesson, is that everyone talking around you, they don't know you and what your journey and what your path is. Don't let them talk you out of what is for you. Because right now, they look really ill-matched. They look, you know, unequally yoked. I don't know where this is going, but if I just look at Alexis, if she is who she says she is, then this is going nowhere fast. All right, so we have a scene. This is about meeting the exes. You know, V throws together a girls' event where she invites some of the girls who can make it, and they just have like a little kiki over drinks, and Seagram seems to be sponsoring the episode. Outside and inside the episode, because I think if I remember correctly, bartender who was at the salon where they were, you know, getting their nails done and, you know, chilling, was mixing Seagram drinks and recreating drinks based on the man they describe as their primary interest. And so they go through that. I'm gonna have a drink that tastes like Jason, have a drink that tastes like Joe, have a drink that tastes like David, blah 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 blah. And there's one point where, first of all, you know, Sister Liz gets a beverage that reminds her of David. We all don't care for the beverage that tastes like David right now. So in the middle of their kiki while they're getting their nails done, she's like, you know what? I want a beverage that tastes like Jason. And then, of course, this episode, Kyra has confirmed to us, the viewers, at least this is the first thing they're now confirming, that Kyra actually is looking at Jason as her number one. That, yeah, AJ is AJ, but she's not, you know, confirming. She's confirming she has an interest in AJ, but he's not her number one. Jason is. So she's looking at Liz like, oh my goodness, competition. That's the point of the scene. And I think, you know what, I hope that it doesn't become uncomfortable in the whole sister wife concept, because this stuff always happens. And I want the ladies to know that, yeah, we share an interest, but let's keep it moving. All right, so next scene we have is Liz bringing her ex. Baby, her ex, Mr. Clarence. He's a 3-course meal with the energy to match. I'm not mad at her. David felt that energy, like he looked like a dog with his tail between his legs. But let's go into the date. So, you know, before David gets there, you know, she talks to, you know, Brother Clarence and kind of tells him, which kind of gives us some insight as to what occurred last week. She kind of tells him that, you know what, I had shared with him that I shared a kiss with Jason but right in front of his friends who just met me for the first time, off camera, he just blurts it out. The only reason for doing that was to try and put her in an uncomfortable light. We know we have a patriarchal society. What's good for the goose is not good for the gander. So as a man, he probably could do something like that. But for a woman, particularly in the Christian surroundings, it would be frowned upon just to make her look a certain way. Once again, I don't know, trying to, get back at her, revenge, whatever all these things are. He did it behind the scenes. We didn't get to see this, but she's telling us. And Clarence clocked them like, okay. And so, David comes in, already he's feeling threatened. So why is he feeling threatened? Because last week he was the one on the other end having her meet new people. And now he's having an issue with meeting somebody else. Like, why does it have to be like a 3-way? You had a 4-way last week. She only having one person and you're having an issue with it. David, and that's the beauty of sometimes where they say, don't rush anything, take your time, because eventually things will begin to reveal themselves. People can only pretend and show you their representative for so long. After a while, you start seeing cracks. The flags start kind of peeking through. You begin to see the flashing lights. Either as good lights, continue, or red lights, stop. Red flag, stop. And so we're now seeing all David's red flags coming to light, like stop. And so, Clarence goes on to ask him, like kind of what he wants, this, and then he goes on to mention something about, what does he hope to create with his partner. And he beautifully walked into, I think it was perfect wording, like, David's like, oh, I'd like to create a safe space for my partner. Clarence jumped right in. Clarence is the homie now. Clarence jumped right in. So it's like, so you say you create a safe space, but when you did this, so you want a safe space, you say you create a safe space, but you doing the thing, blurting it out to your friends, do you think that was creating a safe space? And I think what would have been respectable, would be him saying, I messed up, I shouldn't have done that, I was whatever in my emotions, I know whatever it was, you weren't happy with what happened, but didn't express yourself. You acted like a child. But he went ahead and now said that, listen to this weak excuse, that if she had told him that some of the things she tells him that he needs to keep to himself, then he probably wouldn't have done that. You know what? We could end that conversation right there. If I need to tell you as a grown adult, you probably call yourself a grown-ass man, what you should and shouldn't say, then we don't need to have this conversation. We don't need to be together. We don't need to be at this table. So this weak excuse he had. So he brought up that weak excuse that maybe she had told him that he shouldn't share, he wouldn't have. Weak. It made him look so weak. I hear he's been doing lives, Sir, if you ever hear my voice, the sound of my voice, and you see this video, that was a weak excuse. You should have just said, I messed up. End the story. And he went on to now try and butter her up. But the beauty in it is Liz saw right through it. In her confessional, she said that he was trying to save face by trying to confuse her with compliments, like, he put her on a pedestal. There's only one Liz. He values her, all this. That doesn't erase what you've done. So you don't value her. It now comes up to the point where we're talking about the control, because let me scurry right back for a second. At the beginning of the date, when he finally finds out, okay, Clarence is her ex, he said he wanted to set the tone. What he wanted to do was kind of create some control by saying, so, when was the last time you were intimate? Bruh, how's that your business? But that's okay. They answered his dumb question. And then we moved on and found out that he's a weak liar. Not only is he a liar, he's a weak liar. Let me continue. And so, when he finds out that, I think he knew he had said some nonsense. So as soon as he's finished saying what he's saying, he, excuses himself, scurries out like a little rat, and then leaves. And then Clarence kind of discusses with her that, he's a smooth talker. I don't know what to tell you. And that, in his oppression, there seems to be a private versus a public persona. So will the real David please stand up? I think at this point, most of us, dare I say all of us, are over David right now. And it just makes us think, like what we said last week. Just because you see him sitting in a pews in church does not mean he was sent to you by God. He might just be a distraction that, Satan sent to throw you off your path. So we really have to be very clear and intentional in how we meet people and pick them. We make mistakes, but we need to learn from our mistakes. David, said all the right things. They started singing in the beginning of, the season, the gospel song. They shared different choirs. But look at him now. No integrity. He's even dishonest. He has not been honest yet that, my feelings were hurt by the kiss you shared with Jason, and this is how I feel. He hasn't said that yet. He's simply saying everything but that. And not only is he saying everything but that, he's trying to punish her. Like, who died and made you God? Anyway, moving on. So the next date is Kyra and her ex, who is, Timothy. Of course, and Jason comes in. So this week, looks like, Kyra is she's reaffirming that Jason's her number one. So he gets to meet Timothy. So we start. And so the date begins. And it looks like Jason's doing exactly what Kyra was doing last week when she was, going on those dates with people, kind of extracting information other than just being put in the hot seat. So he gets talking, what kind of person she is. And then Timothy, bruh, like, that's not your role. Are you trying to say that she hold a grudge? That's what I was hearing from him, talking about, she takes a little while to let go of things. And there's something I noticed while he was talking, like, does brown man have some sleeves? Like tattoos going along? I'm like, okay, I didn't see that with you, Kyra, but sis, I'm not mad at you. All right, so Timothy with the sleeves goes on to, talk about, and then, what I thought was interesting, I don't know the extent of the conversations, if, the couples were given listed questions already to ask when you meet the ex. But one of the key questions I thought he asked, I don't know if he knew that was a key question or just how they played it out, was when he was talking about financial responsibility. So her ex said that, she makes the money, but, in terms of a budget, does she do a budget? And that's like, a red flag for Jason. He has his own upbringing, whatever that is. He's like, oh, he's already thinking like, first of all, he says that, she can hold a grudge. Now he's talking about she doesn't know how to budget. Is she going to blow all the money on an expensive trip and not meet her bills? That's what he's kind of playing in his mind. And then this makes me think, we say, there is the saying that a predictor of future behavior is past behavior, or the best predictor of future behavior is past behavior. But when it comes to relationships, is that really the case? When someone has grown over a period of time, years to begin with, put the growth in, is their past behavior still a predictor of future behavior? And what if this ex that you pick, although they probably try and pick the ex who has the least amount against them, what if this ex is holding a grudge? Then he's trying to throw some things into it, as we say, Nigerians say, pouring sand in the gari. That means you're messing up your favorite meal and you can't take it. Like, I don't know. And this makes me wonder, because he kept harping, even after Jason left, kept harping about this, finances. And he's trying to say Sister Kyra, because she always looks nice. Is he saying that Sister Kyra is blowing her budget on other things, but the important things. We know she's an attorney, so she makes a good living, but we all know wealth is not by how much you make, but how much you save and how you invest. Is what you do, what you have, as opposed to what you bring in. Because you hear about all kind of athletes going broke quickly, whereas you see other people who kind of built their chips up slowly, building wealth. So is this the first chink we're seeing in her armor? Let's wait and see. I don't even know how accurate it is, because it's coming from her ex. That could be coming from a place of something else that happened between them. So let's just put it on the shelf and just kind of watch and see if anything else plays out. So the next date is Amber gets her ex, somebody called Tony, to meet up with KG. And first thing first, I don't know how he blurted it out. They're talking about kids, KG talked about he wants 5 kids. He wants 5 kids, but he's not ready to create the security of marriage for those 5 kids. But once again, I'm just superimposing my own opinion. Like, I really feel that one of the important purposes of marriage is to create a sense of security for both, for the couple and the children. But I'm not here to judge. And of course, Amber also addresses what I'm saying in her confessional when she says something about, well, she's always known she wanted to have children, but wasn't always so keen on marriage. So she knows children are in the picture. She's not sure about marriage. Once again, I said this a couple of weeks ago, I feel like sometimes she just agrees with him just to let him be, to create a suitable space for him. I don't know. Let's see how it plays out. And then, KG said he senses some energy, and they go on to, when they're talking about, their past, Tony goes on to mention and say that, well, actually what happened while we were dating, I kind of came out to her and said that I actually like guys. And then she kind of described something she went through, but, she didn't throw him under the bus, and they became good friends. I don't know. She said, she learned from it, but she would never, ever do it again. I don't know what to think of it. It does say that she does, she's not as hard as she may have appeared in the beginning when they first kind of portrayed her. So she's not that. But it also, I think, sheds light and makes us see why she plays it safe in relationships. Because I feel like, the whole assimilating, cozying up to KG, who there wasn't a lot of competition for, was her playing it safe. Once again, it's just an opinion piece. And it Kiki with, you know, Sister Amber over the phone. I'm just saying it looks like she's playing it safe. He was a safe option. And this, looking at the past or listening to the past, gives us some insight as to why. Moving on. So we get a next scene as a double date. So that's AJ, Alexis, and then Liz and Jason. You know, they meet up, and let's break down the little things that are going on here. So Jason meets with Liz. You know, he had said in the past that he'd made Kyra his, you know, his number one. But now, based on the date with the ex, now he's having second thought. He's feeling confused. Now, you know, Jason, I don't have anything against you. And if you weren't going after my sister Liz, I probably would have been like, you know, whoop whoop for Jason. But I don't know. It's like, why is that one conversation making you run? Like, it's one thing to settle and dwell on an issue and like A, B, C, D, what am I doing? But it's another thing to run to somebody else because you're confused, as opposed to pondering and then kind of figuring out yourself, like weighing the pros and the cons and maybe doing some further communication. And once again, it's not like once you leave the show, it's marriage, it's just dating. But here and there. So we start the date, you know, Liz has been really affectionate with him. He goes on to say, this one right here, this one right, I don't know, like this one right here, just like when you're talking about a woman, I don't know if this one right here is the right way to express your interest, or saying like, you know, she's growing on you. Like she's not a fungus, I don't know why we're talking about she's growing on you, but it's again, I'm digressing from the point. So the other couple, Alexis and AJ. So AJ is now also, he says in his confessional, kind of winding up his options because he sees that he has a lot of competition with Kyra. And he doesn't really know if he's the number one, and he's not trying to lose. Another premise as to why a game show with dating doesn't work. Because at this point, everybody's not trying not to lose. Not that they're not trying to not find love. Like, if they don't find love, then they're trying not to lose. So here, AJ is now saying, well, it doesn't look like he may be Kyra's primary interest. So now he's trying to open up a door here already somewhat closed. He didn't really look like he was interested in Alexis, but is now, you know, inviting Alexis because he knows she likes him. But listen to this. There's something, I kind of looked at Alexis as the game player, just kind of playing games. But there's something she said this week that really endeared her to me. And I love that she was extremely transparent and honest, because honestly, I don't think anyone can say that they haven't done or thought of this. And so this is what she says. She says that, you know, she always has butterflies with AJ, and she feels like AJ is definitely her type, the type that could break her heart. So she's always had a guard up to protect herself from him because she don't want to fall in love with him. And her reason for choosing Ron is because Ron chose her. So what, in essence, what she's saying is that, you know what, I'm going to find a safe space. That makes sense. Think about it. Even when she said that, AJ did not immediately address her fears, because she just said to you, I chose Ron because Ron chose me, not because I want Ron. I actually want you, but you give me the sense that you could break my heart. He holds her hand, and this really kind of makes me see, like, you know, and you'll see this, I'm sure, you'll see a lot of females who settle somewhere else. I'm not saying they're unhappy, but they settle somewhere else because their primary interest at the time was not making the moves in which they would have liked, and the writing was plain on the wall. It was plain to see. And I think when you do that, it's really for your safety, because you'll hear about females who've, you know, been through this guy, he's cheated, he's done all this, but they keep hanging on, and maybe eventually 20 years later it turns out right. I don't know, is that what you want for yourself? Or you'll hear of the stories. Some I know myself, someone's been dating someone for 8, 10, 15 years with no real commitment that she wants, the commitment that she wants given to her, and then eventually he either decides to do it out of duress, or he's getting old now. What's that? No, that song, like, we're getting old now, let's get married, by this group. I can't remember, but anyway, moving on. Jason goes on to mansplain what Alexis said to AJ. Like, you know what? She's requiring you to actually say something, you know, address her concerns and make her feel like you're actually choosing her. Now, when that happens, I'm like, you know, on one hand, I see AJ, you know, that seems nice, like he's trying to intervene for his sister. But on the other hand, yeah, if AJ moves to Alexis, and that's one less person going after his girl, Kyra. I'm just saying it's an observation. I'm not saying that's what he was doing, but it looked like an observation to me. I don't know. And so, you know, AJ's reasoning, or his response was, well, I've not said or been that way with anyone in terms of choosing someone. And it goes on, and so he shuts down the conversation by kissing her, which is his go-to move. You know, he's done this before during one of the elimination dates, that she was the one, and she was going, and then he swung her around and shut it down. So that seems to be his go-to move, and it works. Alexis, they shut down the conversation. But AJ, I think you're playing. You know, I have said in the past, maybe the last episode, that we should not give you the benefit of the doubt. But that seemed like a clean move to me. You know, all he says, I hear your concerns. You know, Alexis is clear what she wants, and the words were saying, I want someone who makes that decision in their heart that it's me. AJ, I don't know if you made that decision, and you're not saying you're saying you didn't answer the question or address her concerns head on. I think she let it be after the kiss, but Alexis, she's a smart lady. I don't think she's forgotten. She's just kind of clocking everything for her. It looks like her backup person is really like a wild card that there's not good backup for her. At this point, it's like everything's just kind of mangled, you know. It's like, I don't know. Ron behaving like he wants to self-eliminate because he's come up with all these crazy things. And then so we go to the ladies' lounge, back at the Miles Manor, the Miles Palace, wherever. And, you know, they kind of break down the restaurant. I won't distract y'all, but one of the things I like about Liz is her interesting style. So I think I just remember 2 confessionals as it was been going. There's one confessional, she has this the peacock yellow blouse with some real huge jewelry. That's not my choice, but I just kind of like the sleeves of the blouse. And there was another one that, you know, opening up the confessional for the ladies' lounge with this fuchsia pink, but with a bow, like right here. I don't know. I like the dramatic blouse, and a lot of times she'll throw it on top of a nice pair of blue jeans with the heels, I like it. I like her style. So anyway, let's focus. So we go on, we talk about the dates, you know, we talk about, you know, Joel. Her ex said that Joel was okay. All right. And then we go on to Alexis. You know, Alexis breaks down what we talked about before. It's like, you know, they have a difference of opinion in relationship with God, with Christ. Why is she giving him a second chance? If you already know what you know these are your non-negotiables, why are we still entertaining it? Once again, this is females, this is what we do all the time. You kind of seen a red flag, but you're still trying to explain it away, or maybe think or hope that it wasn't what you saw. You saw what you saw, and it's true. Now, it's human nature, and we do it, but sometimes silly shows like this can help us kind of bring that stuff to light. We'll see a non-negotiable and still try to negotiate ourselves out of, you know, telling us we saw what we saw. Now you didn't really see it. Now I'm seeing, no, you saw it. Cut and be gone. But anyway, they kind of go into some length, you know. Nephew Tommy talks about, you know, here's what Christ does in him, the land that they're sitting on now. When they broke the land, they prayed over it. So he's trying to tell her, like, yo, sis, you already know. You've already said right now. This sounds like a non-negotiable. I'm just paraphrasing. It's a non-negotiable to you. Why are we still talking about it? Let's keep it moving. And so we go on to Liz. And I like what Liz said. You know, Liz was talking about David, and she had said, I want to read those words precisely how she said it. She said, I was unwise with the words that David had my heart. What I meant to say was that David had my deep interest. So she's backtracking, removing permission. She's saying, you know what? No, he's not my number one. I just want to put it out there. And it was a very grown-up way of saying, I may have misjudged him. I may have moved a little too quickly. I may have miscalculated, but I'm going to own that and say this is where I'm at. And this is why I made that mistake, so I know I don't make that again. This is what I like Liz. She's real. She's us. She's you. She's me. Moving on. So Nephew Tommy, as an equal opportunity employer, he says, you know what he told the guys last week? He says, you know what? If everything ain't it tonight, who would you pick? So Kyra's already told us at the beginning of the episode that, you know, it's going to be Jason. So no surprise here. Liz, she said, Jason, I'm not even surprised. Because David is in the trash heap right now. And we'll put the lid on it and we're going to pour some stuff on top of him too. Moving on. And then V, no surprise here. She goes with Joel. Oh no. You know, I'm feeling kind of shaky with that Joel connection. I don't know. All right. And so then, you know, Amber, no surprise here. She picks KG. And then, of course, you know, Alexis, you know, she says AJ. Now, to all of us, you know, Kyra's already said that Yeah, AJ is there, but he's not a primary interest. But there was the camera pan to her, and that is Kobe production and cutting and dicing and editing. Kyra pan to her, like when she's taking a gulp, like, because sometimes you don't feel something until you've lost it. And she's saying, oh, she picked AJ. I don't know. The truth is, who's Kyra's real choice? Is she also running away from AJ because he gives her that same energy, like, you know, we had that past experience. I don't trust you. I'm not ready to put my, you know, my cart next to you. AJ, you're giving off that kind of energy. I mean, yeah. So here we go with it. So it looks like we have they didn't call them, so they didn't kind of vote and say the final two like they usually do, because they're trying to be different, because they've got all these curveballs they're throwing to us. So in my mind, it looked like next scenes would be Ron versus David. They do open up the scenes, Ron and Alexis meet, and, you know, she tells him that she was a little offended by his, you know, how, you know, he talked about her ex who was dripping in religion. She felt it was judgmental, and she felt some kind of way because she spent extra energy trying to portray herself as just, you know, Christian, but not a judgmental Christian, which is kind of a reputation that Christians tend to get. And she was just really offended. And then he comes up with this divine masculinity that, no, it's not that. She's just not had divine masculinity in her presence all day. Hold up. So I just wanted us to check and see, like, this divine masculinity stuff he's talking about, what he mean by that. So I just wanted to check for both of us, for, you know, divine masculinity, or the divine masculine, is a very action-based, focused on doing rather than being. And traits for divine masculinity: logic and reasoning, responsibility, the goal-oriented, action, decisiveness, strength, but blah 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 blah. He just making an excuse for why he don't choose Christ, and that's his right. But I don't think he should be shooting down Alexis' belief system, how she's operated way before he met her, which just simply emphasizes once again they're unequally yoked. We don't need to be wasting time here. But then they cut, nothing's going on. Well, now we're going on to Liz and David. They meet, and immediately he starts trying to overtalk her, won't let her speak. I know that he knows that the phrase ladies come first. She invited him to date. He didn't invite her, but he wants to overtalk her. And then what happens next? Guys, they cut it off. The end of the episode. I'm a little salty about that, but to be continued. So you know what? I think what we'll end on really is that, you know, dating, once again. I think one of the big themes here is, one, Alexis actually has both of these themes, come to think of it. The first one was when we decide, and we as females do it, I think males probably do it too, when we decide that we'd rather go with or choose someone who chose us, not necessarily someone we choose for ourselves, but they chose us, and so that's safe. That means I won't get rejected. I don't want rejection. And I can understand why. And then the second thing is when we see these red flags, we see these signs, we see these things, someone actually displaying our non-negotiables, but we're still giving them chances to convince us that they didn't do that. Doesn't make sense, because they did do that, and they do it again, and then something happens to. It's just a cycle. So guys, stay tuned. Next week we'll see. Both of them can go, as far as I'm concerned. David needs to be the first one to go. I'm just saying, David needs to go. Second person, Ron needs to go or be self-eliminated. He has nothing to offer. He got talked out of his real choice, who was Chrysanthemum. He didn't want to appear shallow, he didn't want to appear there, so he went with Alexis, because she would, you know, she gave some of his friends, you know, the feeling that she could be his Michelle Obama. There's only one Michelle Obama, and that's Auntie Michelle with Uncle Barack. Okay. So anyway, guys, once again, thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to like, make a comment on what you feel, because yeah, this episode was all over the place. And then don't forget to subscribe. Once again, thank you. Lola, over and out.